NDP leadership candidate Niki Ashton has unveiled her full racial justice platform. Here she is explaining some of the main points and concrete policy proposals.
Our platform means standing up to put an end to racial targeting by the RCMP and law enforcement, including an immediate end to the practice of carding. Our campaign believes in the need to immediately repeal Bill C-51, a piece of legislation that targets Muslim communities, racialized communities, and Indigenous communities. We're also calling for the inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women to include the investigation of the RCMP and law enforcement.
Great. So those are a number of clear, many of them fairly simple, easy to enact, concrete policy proposals address many of the racial inequalities and racial justice, of course, big racial justice issues in the country. She pledges to ban carding on a federal level of the RCMP, so ban carding by the RCMP. And carding, for those who don't know, is basically the police practice of essentially being being able to pull you over or stop you in the street or whatever, where they can just stop you, ask for your identification, without you needing to be suspected of a crime, and that data is collected in the police database. And carding has been found to disproportionately affect racial and ethnic minorities, especially black people, Indigenous people, Hispanic, etc. So a very good move, I think, by Niki Ashton. Of course, everyone should recognize that it is really racial profiling, and it has been found to be essentially that. And another great thing about her policy here is that it also addresses the data collected from carding. So right here in Toronto, for example, although we've stopped the practice of carding, so we don't do it anymore. It's banned because it was racial profiling. But the police are still using the data collected from carding of those, of course, mostly innocent people. And people like Desmond Cole have been campaigning against that. He actually lost his column in the Toronto Star over his activism. So I think that is a great move by Niki Ashton, especially on also specifying the data that will be removed for where carding has already, for at the federal level with banning it for the RCMP, and she wants to work towards banning it all over the country, working with the provinces, municipalities, etc., to really end racial profiling all over the country. Also there, she promised to strengthen the power of the inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women, to also investigate police misconduct, because right now that is not a part of the Commission's mandate. Now, this wasn't actually in that video, but it is in her larger platform. She says that she will immediately release and pardon people convicted solely of marijuana possession and consumption. Now that, of course, I think is also a great policy, and that is really important because Justin Trudeau, although he is of course going to legalize marijuana, there's a lot of questions asked rightly about what happens to people already in jail, and he hasn't really answered that very well. I haven't heard him categorically say yes, people who are in jail right now, people who are serving time right now, people who have a criminal record right now, simply for smoking pot, simply for possessing pot, marijuana. That he has not assured them that they will be pardoned, because it will no longer be the law. Niki Ashton is saying yes, those people will be pardoned. It's important that she put this in her racial justice platform again, instead of say just a criminal justice platform, because she points out that the war on drugs has, of course, disproportionately affected racial minorities, racialized people, especially black people. And that is really largely, if you go back to Nixon's aid, one of the reasons why they started the drug war, because they couldn't actually make it illegal to be black or to be a hippie, so they associated drugs which were associated with black people and hippies. They could use that to essentially arrest black people and hippies, thus going after the anti-war movement and the civil rights movement.